I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome. Welcome to episode 3 of our Agatha Nominee special episodes. We are so excited. We have 3 great authors today. We have CindyCallaghan, who is nominated for the Children's Young Adult category. We have Annette Dashofy, who is nominated for Contemporary, and Aimee Hix, who is nominated for Best First Novel.
And we aren't going to talk too much in the beginning because, once again, this is a lot to get out there, and we want to make sure that we give all of our authors ample time. So let's get started. CindyCallaghan is the award-winning author of 2 tween series, the mega-popular Just Add Magic and Just Add Magic 2 Potion Problems. The 5 Lost In books, London, Ireland, Paris, Rome, and Hollywood, and 2 standalones, the award-winning Sidney Mackenzie Knock 'em Dead and Saltwater Secrets, coming in 2020. Her books magically capture the tween voice and experience. Few other writers today match Cindy's prowess in this genre. Welcome, Cindy.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, why don't you start out, Cindy, by telling us a little bit about yourself?
I would love to. So I am a middle grade author. I kind of call the space or the niche that I'm in sweet teen or sweet tween, kind of that middle grade just before they're teenagers space. And I focus mostly on girl book, but hopefully that might change in the future. I'm also the creator of the TV series Just Add Magic, which is an original streaming series on Amazon. I'm a mother of 3 and a wife, an animal lover, businesswoman, and just a fun gal.
Well, you sound like a lot of fun.
Are your children teenagers?
They were. I have 1 that's a teenager and 2 that are now in college.
Oh, you lived through the teenage girl years.
Yeah.
How did you react when you received your nomination?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for asking. What a great phone call to get. I don't know about you, but we don't use our landline that much anymore. It's sometimes the answering machine will go days without checking it. So the evening I got home from work and I played the messages and had the message on the answering machine that Potion Problems had been nominated for an Agatha Award this year. I can't explain what a thrill it is that someone else, a group of other people and a body like Malice likes it. It's so validating and reassuring, and it just feels so good and warm and fuzzy all over. It's a wonderful feeling, and of course was a cause for a celebration in our house that night.
Should imagine.
This book in particular was super exciting because it's been in the making for such a long time. The original Just Add Magic book came out in 2010, and Potion Problems didn't come out for 8 years later. So that's a really long gap in between books, and I had been so eager to tell the rest of the story. I was so excited when the book finally came out and hit shelves, and then also to have the nomination on top of that was just like a double dose of wonderful.
Well, how did you get started writing, and what drew you to the mysteries genre?
It's a little bit of a crazy story. Unlike most authors, I was not a big reader as a kid. I was what is referred to as a reluctant reader. It wasn't something I was particularly good at, and it wasn't something I really enjoyed until much later. And as a young adult, I was meandering around Borders when Borders bookstore was open, and I wanted to get a book. I wanted to read. I've always wanted to be a good reader. It wasn't something that came naturally to me. And I picked up a book by an author I wasn't familiar with. It was called The Poet by an author named Michael Connelly, who I'm sure you're very familiar with.
Oh, yes.
I read it in like 2 days, and it was the first time that I had ever experienced that. So I went back to Borders and I bought all of the Michael Connelly books that were there and absolutely fell in love with Harry Bosch and the mystery genre and the Lincoln Lawyer, and I'm still a huge fan. And coincidentally, kind of interesting, the Bosch series is also on Amazon, and mine is on Amazon. I have this inside joke with Michael that he doesn't know that we have. that we're kind of like cousins. It's just interesting the way things come together. And once I devoured all of the Michael Connelly books, I just went from mystery author to mystery author, reading everything that I could, and just fell in love with it.
What advice would you give to aspiring authors?
Ironically, I would say read a lot. And I do read a lot now, and I have for a very long time. I just missed those childhood years, and I think it's a very unfortunate thing to miss. And I think that also is what draws me to that age group, and it draws me to write the types of books that I write, which are really geared towards reluctant readers. They're easy, they're page turners, they're fast paced to try to really get kids that age engrossed. That wasn't exactly your question. Read a lot was my first advice to writers. And the second is you have to spend a lot of time with your butt in a chair. It's not the best thing for your health. So you should also walk and run and bike. You have to spend time doing it. It's like exercising a muscle. And unless you do it a lot, it doesn't get stronger.
That's good advice.
It certainly is good advice. We've been speaking to quite a few authors in our journey on our podcast now. And the answers that we get from the authors are so interesting and so diverse. It seems like each one strikes a chord.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
The other bit I think I would say is build a community or become part of a community where you can be with like-minded people who are also writing or trying to get published. And a critique group, I think, is critical. I've been really lucky to be part of a couple of critique groups throughout my writing journey. And the feedback and the camaraderie, the friendship that grows from those groups, I think is absolutely invaluable. I'm not sure how someone could write an entire novel without some feedback along the way as part of their writing process. To me, it's something really that I cherish.
Do you have any upcoming books or events that you'd like our listeners to know about?
I sure do. I have a couple of things. Well, I always have a lot of different irons in the fire. I'm very excited for my 2020 book release. It's called Saltwater Secrets, and it's the sweet teen version, if you will, of Big Little Lies. I don't know if you're familiar with that book. And it's told in a very similar way, back and forth between police interviews and then narrative, which I think is something that's new to the middle grade space. Super excited about the book. I love the story. I love the characters. It takes place on the Jersey Shore, which is a place that's near and dear to my heart. The book's been optioned by a major studio, so I'm also hopefully optimistic that that will progress through the various toll gates in those processes. Saltwater Secrets is something I'm very excited about. I'm working on the sequel right now. I also have a new series that's mystery for boys that's out on submission, so I'm hopefully optimistic that someone will make me an offer on that. I've been spending quite a bit of time submitting proposals both for movies and series on the Hollywood side. I work with an agent and I have many, many proposals that are being shopped around, and I'm super excited about that. I love having a foot kind of in both worlds. That's what I have kind of on tap at the moment.
You're a busy lady.
Will we be seeing you at Malice Domestic?
You will. Super excited. I'm hosting a panel discussion on middle grade children's books with the other nominees. I'll be there the whole time. I'll be at the banquet. It's such a wonderful conference, and you'll be there as well, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes, we'll have to. We'll definitely have to have a coffee and meet in person. Busy, exciting conferences. I'm sure you know if you've been there in the past, it's super high energy. And I get so excited leading up to it. I stress so much about the dress for the bank. Oh my gosh, I don't know about you guys, but I try on like 100 trying to find one that I love.
This is our first year, so you're telling us something. We have to find a fabulous dress.
Yes. So I stress about that for a handful of weeks leading up. You know, when you get home from vacation or something afterwards, those next 2 days, I find myself just being very quiet and recharging my battery from having such a nice long weekend of excitement.
Well, I imagine this year it's going to be extra nerve-wracking finding a dress because if you win the nomination...
That's right. You have to be up in front of all those people.
I do, yes. And actually, I'm fortunate my 2017 release, Sidney Mackenzie Knocks 'Em Dead, won the Agatha last year. And I knew I had to get a special dress, and I did. I loved my dress last year, but I didn't realize that I was supposed to get up in front of everyone and make remarks. So I felt terribly unprepared, which it's not like me. And I don't know if you're familiar with the other nominees in the category, but they're very strong. Ben Gooderson in particular, his book is nominated for an Edgar Award, and Cynthia Suris is so wonderful also.
Yes, we've talked to both of them.
So. Okay, so I feel like I'm in good company.
Well, we wish you all the luck, and we're looking forward to seeing you at Malice. And thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And yet, let's definitely get together at Malice. I look forward to meeting you in person.
And you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. That was great. Cindy was a delight. Her book, The Potion Problems, I read it, and I'm going to recommend it to my granddaughter. It's just one of those cute stories about a girl and her friends, and they have some magic powers. They have to learn the consequences of those magic powers, too.
So there's some lessons to be learned.
There's a lesson to be learned.
As all children and young adult books should have.
Yes, and it's very well written, but I love Lunch Lady Jane.
Well, that's great. Now we're going to move on to Annette Dashofy. Is a best-selling author, and she's spent most of her life in rural Pennsylvania, surrounded by cattle and horses. Her Zoe Chambers mystery series includes Circle of Influence, which was a finalist for the Agatha Award for Best First Novel, and the David Award for Best Mystery of 2014. Her newest book, Cry Wolf, is nominated for the Best Contemporary Novel for an Agatha. Welcome, Annette.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Annette, let's start off by you telling us and our listeners a little bit about yourself.
I am fourth generation on what was our family farm. We have 10 acres of it. So I have very deep roots here in southwestern Pennsylvania, which is where I've set my series. I think my first writing implement was a crayon. Let's be honest about it. So I've been writing pretty much all of my life to the point where I didn't realize that there were people out there who didn't write. I just thought it was something that everybody did. I didn't start writing seriously for publication until about 2003, 2004. I always wrote something just for fun. For me, it was fun to write, as much fun as reading. When I started in 2003, 2004, it took me a good 10 years before I actually found a publisher. It's been a lifelong thing. In between times, of course, life gets in the way. I did work as an EMT for a number of years, which is why my character Zoe is a paramedic. I borrowed heavily from my history there, thinking that I wouldn't have to do as much research, which is laughable because my other main character, Pete Adams, is the chief of police, and I've never been a cop. But I love research, so that was okay too.
What was your reaction when you found out you were nominated?
Oh my. Well, this is my fourth nomination. The first nomination for Best First Novel, I distinctly remember getting off the phone and screaming. At least I hope I waited till I got off the phone to scream. Nobody told me I deafened them, so I assume I did. The second nomination, I kind of just sat down and wept tears of joy. This one was kind of a combination of the two. I hung up the phone and did a little happy dance and squealing and a little bit of crying too. So it's always such an honor.
You said you started writing very young, and
yes,
I've always done it. What drew you to writing mysteries?
Well, when I was younger, I didn't write mysteries. I started out writing kid stories because I was a kid. And then in high school, I wrote, now they call it fan fiction. Didn't have that term for it back then. And what it amounts to is taking a TV show that I really liked and writing a story about it, inserting a very thinly veiled version of myself into the story. I wrote Westerns and Star Trek. What got me into mysteries was when I discovered Mary Higgins Clark, Where Are the Children? And that was the book that really sparked my interest in mysteries and crime fiction. So I gobbled up everything I could that she wrote, Agatha Christie, Dick Francis, Robert Parker, Ed McBain. I just became all consumed by the mystery genre, and I've never written anything else since then that wasn't mystery.
Oh, very interesting. I think Mary Higgins Clark snagged a lot of people.
And I got to meet her at BoucherCon a few years back when BoucherCon was in Cleveland. I rode down the elevator with her. I seized the opportunity to thank her for her influence on me, and she took my hand in both of hers and was very gracious and thanked me for speaking to her and telling her about that. It's wonderful. I almost didn't wash my hand afterward for a while.
That's a wonderful story. We are really looking forward to going to Malice and being able to fangirl out over our favorite authors too.
I love Malice.
And we keep hearing, just not even with Malice, with all of the events, that the mystery writing